This exhibition, which is called Marveling at the Skies, Comets Through the Eyes of the Anglo-Saxons, comes from a bigger project, which is the APEX project, a cross-disciplinary project I'm working with my colleague, Dr. Pedro Lacerda, and we are looking at records of comets from 1,000 years ago and assessing them scientifically. So this is a tiny part, basically, of a much, much bigger project. And this is focused on the Anglo-Saxons and how they saw the cosmos and what they thought about certain natural phenomena, particularly comets. So basically, comets here are the star, sorry about the pun, of the exhibition. This exhibition should take visitors on a cosmic journey where they start with some manuscript images and records of comets and visual depictions of comets as well from Anglo-Saxon England. And all these images will be actually matched with contemporary images of comets. So it's like to bring together this interest that Pedro and I have between medieval studies and science. So we really hope that this exhibition will bring, those two sides and disciplines together.
Anglo-Saxons looked at things in the sky. At some point they started actually calling these things comets, but for a while they didn't know what they were. They just looked like stars that they called them broom stars because they seemed to have a broom sticking out of them, or wandering stars or hairy stars. But they didn't really, they didn't really know what it was. And usually things we don't know what they are, we see them, they're spectacular and we don't know what they are. That leaves room for your imagination, and that's probably where they could come up with maybe theories that these comets would bring disasters or maybe good things. But that's part of what we're doing with our research here, is that Marilina gets texts where people talk about things they see in the sky, but she's not sure if they're really talking about a comet or what they're talking about. And hopefully my calculations can tell her if it was likely that there was actually a comet in the sky, and then she can know what actually they are talking about, and then she can use her art to try to decipher the way they think and so how they understand these phenomena.
This is a juxtaposition of old and new. This is what the main purpose of this exhibition is, and the cross-disciplinary aspect is what makes it, really. So again, more than actually technology, which is technology if you look, at the contemporary images of comets, obviously, and the way they were taken, that really contrasts with a handwritten manuscript where an Anglo-Saxon monk had to read line by line, and also this contrast between a high-resolution photo with a manuscript made of old parchment dating back to 1,000 years ago. So this is kind of striking, this juxtaposition is striking, but at the same time it makes sense. And I feel it works really, really well. And then what we also did was, Pedro reconstructed what the sky looked like if you were an Anglo-Saxon looking at the sky on 1066, like King Harold would have done. What would you have seen? So at the back of the room, basically, we also have a screen where these reconstructed images of what the sky looked like 1,000 years ago are there, so people can get a sense of what an Anglo-Saxon might have seen 1,000 years ago. The APEX project, which is entitled Before and After Halley, Medieval Visions of Modern Science, has been selected as one of the best projects funded in the UK for cross-disciplinary excellence. And in fact, part of this exhibition will be moved to the British Academy Summer Festival in June from 21st, 24th of June.
I find it very interesting to collaborate with someone from humanities because I've worked in science since I finished my studies, and I only work with scientists. And scientists have a very particular way of looking at the world and thinking about the world, which is very different from people in the humanities. And this work gives me the opportunity of interacting with extremely interesting and gifted scholars from a completely different area of research. And I find it fascinating to see how they can interpret text from so few words. They can actually come up with theories of what these people were thinking. It's very different from me and very strange because I sense some ambiguity in what they do. But that's, I guess, just because I'm used to things being very certain or uncertain in more defined ways.
I was surprised of how different it is when you get out of your comfort zone and you get out of the skills that you learned in your discipline, and when you start engaging with people who've got different set of skills, and you start confronting yourself with some ideas that you've had, but actually they are very different. And this idea of kind of finding a common ground, I think this is what I find more interesting about working with Pedro, is this constantly kind of renegotiating and challenging some of the ideas that I did have as a humanities scholar, only focusing on literature and certain types of things, but now I can start seeing outside that, and to me that's been the most interesting part of it.
Medieval texts can be of value to us today because we know the orbits of comets as they are now. We know when comets come by the Earth and fly away again. So we can describe their orbits with great accuracy. And today we have computers that can help us calculate these orbits back to the time when Anglo-Saxons were looking at the sky. I think as a scientist there's no way I can know what they were seeing at that time. Well, that turns out not to be true. Marilina looks at texts written by monks between the 8th and the 12th century, and these people were writing down what they saw. So to me, this is like getting on a phone, calling a monk in the 10th century and asking him, hey, do you see something in the sky on this date? Because my computer tells me there should be something there. That's it. So I'm getting a message from 1,000 years ago that's telling me if there was something in the sky or not. So that's amazing. That's what I really find interesting about this project.
I would say the most famous one is probably the Bayeux tapestry image, which is actually the earliest depiction of a comet in continental Europe. And that marks the end of the English dynasty and the arrival of the Normans. And it's one of the most actually famous symbols where you can see the English pointing at the star and telling King Harold, look, something is going to happen. And then King Harold has this vision of William the Conqueror's ships coming and invading England. And this is actually one of the most famous images that we have today. And this idea that even today comets may be seen as portents of something. I mean, we need to go, but we can go back to, when was it, 1997, Hale-Bopp mass suicide in San Diego, where people from that association thought basically that the comet was going to basically be the precursor of a spaceship for them to go and carry them. So, even today, despite we think that all these beliefs go back to 1,000 years ago, but still today, phenomena like comets, actually, they can create a bit of madness in people. And they kind of definitely are things we stop at and we marvel at. And I think this hasn't changed, actually.